Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kings of Fantasy Football. I'm your co-host Pablo, and here's my co-host.
Leo.
So, in today's episode, we are going to discuss start slash sits for Week 12. Um, fantasy playoffs are around the corner, so to everyone still fighting for a spot, good luck. Hope you can make it. Got 2 weeks left. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So we're going to start with quarterbacks. So the quarterback that I would start, the offense that he is on has been clicking on all cylinders ever since the kind of dud that they had against the Texans, and that's going to be Jared Goff of the Lions. Scored like 50 points last week. 52 to be exact. They're facing the Colts. So he has a really favorable matchup. Um, Amon-Ra um, has been doing really well. Just that offense has been clicking. So that is my first quarterback to start. Who's yours, Theo?
My first one to start is gonna be Justin Herbert. This week he's going up against the Baltimore Ravens, who just got lit up last week by Burrow, and um and now they're gonna they're allowing the most fantasy points to I'm sorry, the third most fantasy points to quarterbacks this season, and they've been and Herbert's been pretty hot lately himself. Ever since his bye, he's been averaging over the last 4 games over 20 uh fantasy points per game, and I that should continue this week.
All right, I like that. That offense has been doing well the last few weeks. 27 at the Browns, 27 against Titans, and then 34 last week. Um, I think the Chargers too. They're doing well, second in their division. So I like that pick. Um, which
Thank
is kind of weird because Ravens defense is normally known for
you.
being that old school um, defense. So it's been surprising, man. That secondary has been, like you said, been getting
Yeah,
torched.
yeah, yeah. They're definitely good against the run, but just for some reason that secondary's just been real shoddy this year.
All right. Next quarterback to start is going to be uh, Jaden Daniels of the Commanders. Um, Monday night, that Cowboys defense gave up another 30 plus point game. I know we talked about it last week that, I mean, 30's been average for them this last 5 games. I don't see that changing at all, especially in Washington. So definitely think that Jaden Daniels can score another 30 on them. I mean, until that defense shows something, I think any quarterback against them can do really well. But Jaden Daniels having a really good year as a rookie quarterback. So I expect him to do well, especially with that mobility factor. Um, so he can run and throw. So that's my next quarterback. Who is yours?
My next quarterback this week is gonna be his rookie uh, uh, competitor for Rookie of the Year, and that's Bo Nix. He's been on a tear as of late. This week he's going up against the Raiders that he faced them back in week 5, and that was like his first probably like his coming out party that he threw for 206 yards and had 2 touchdowns and also ran for another. So, Nix has been doing making plays with his legs as well. He hasn't been doing many plays over the last couple of weeks, but prior to that, he had a game that he rushed for over 61 yards and also 75 yards, and a third one for 36 yards. So he can make plays with his legs, but he's been phenomenal. Uh, it looks like he has got Mr. Champagne's offense under control, and he's been lighting it up. He even lit up the Falcons last week for 39 points, fantasy points with 307 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, um, someone you gotta if you have him, you gotta start him for sure.
He's changed me into a believer, man. He's 14
Yeah,
touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the year, 2,200 passing yards. Um, and his counterpart, like we are talking about, Jane Daniels, 2,400 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So I think that's going to be a very, very close race.
yeah.
And like you said, he can run, which you never thought that he would do well. And to be honest, when he got drafted, I was, kind of skeptical, but he's made me into a believer now. So I like that pick.
Thank you.
Moving on to quarterbacks that we would sit. Um, the quarterback that I would sit this week is going to be Bryce Young of the Panthers. He is facing the Chiefs this week, even though they've won their last two. But I think Kansas City is gonna try and avenge the loss last week against the Bills. Everyone's talking about them getting exposed last week, so I think their defense is gonna try and remind people that they are formidable. So for that reason, I would not start them against the Chiefs. What about you?
This week I'm gonna start. I'm gonna sit Sam Darnold if you have him. Um, he's been kind of getting a little shaky as of late. Like 2 weeks ago that he had a very favorable matchup against the Jaguars. He only scored nine fantasy points. He did come back last week, against the Titans, going for 270, 27. But unfortunately, this week he's traveling to Chicago, which are allowing the fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks this season. So that's something to ponder. Like maybe he comes through, but like I would, look another someone else to start if you can.
Okay. Um, I can see why you would say that, but um, I think with Kevin O'Connell at the helm, I mean, he was praising him today on Pat McAfee's show, so maybe he has some plays for this week. Um, but I can see why you would sit him. My next quarterback that I would sit is going to be Gardner Minshew of the Raiders, who faces the Broncos that we were talking about. That defense, fantasy wise, they're like top five, but I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, they are actually number two in fantasy. So means that they do pretty well considering their number two defense in fantasy. Um, and again, like you were mentioning, that offense has been doing well, but I think the defense has been uh, good. They've been consistent, so I would not start Gardner Minshew. Who's your last quarterback to sit?
Um, this quarterback, he's one of the other rookies that he's had a couple of nice games over the last few um uh over the last few weeks, but this week he's going against my team, the Miami Dolphins. They're you know they're allowing the the third fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks this season. They've only Matthew Stafford a couple weeks ago they held him to 10 points at Los Angeles, and they've also held Anthony Richardson to 8 points. Um, so Geno Smith to 15 points. Josh Allen 11 points. So that like I said, they've been doing well against the top talent quarterbacks. So as someone to if if you've been starting him, I would consider not, but you do have to do.
Right. So, moving on to running backs. The first running back that I would start, it's going to be from my hometown, and it's going to be Joe Mixon of the Houston Texans. Last week, he had 3 touchdowns, so he had a hat trick against the Cowboys. He ran for 109 yards, but he also was involved in the passing game. He had 2 receptions, 44 yards. So he had a lot of all-purpose yards last week against the Cowboys, and I think he'll continue to do that this week at home against the Titans. So definitely, I know Joe Mixon owners have been really happy when he's in the lineup and he's healthy because he's been doing really well. Um, so I know Bengals fans are probably thinking, man, we gave up Joe Mixon. He's having this good of a year. So my first, again, running back to start is Joe Mixon this week. Sorry that we lost you for a bit, Theo, but who would you start at running back?
Awesome. No, yeah, you gotta ride the hot hand with Joe Mixon.
Right, man.
He's been on fire, man. He helped me win a couple weeks fantasy leagues last week for sure. So definitely gotta roll with him. All right, so let's see here. So my first running back to start this week is gonna be Tyrone Tracy. He's been a real pleasant surprise this season. After Devin Singletary, wasn't really producing. They threw in Tyrone Tracy in there, and he started providing great uh, support for the running game for the Giants. Um, he's got they're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week, who are allowing the fifth most fantasy points to running backs this season, and since they're gonna be, I think this game has a new, they have a DeVito as the new quarterback, so it is gonna be interesting to see how they incorporate him into the offense and see what they do. So, but I think that they're gonna have to lean on the run a little bit to get through this game, and quarterbacks love to throw to running backs and tight ends as a security blanket. So if he's needed, Tyrone Tracy should be there and provide. He should at least provide about 15 fantasy points, hopefully to the fantasy managers out there.
I really wish I would have picked him up when I had the chance last week. He 18 carries, 103 yards, and a touchdown. Felt really bad for people that had Singletary at one point. And like you said, nice security blanket, but man, over 100 and a touchdown. And he's just been doing well. so really like
Yeah.
that start. Um, my next running back should start, and I'm gonna keep picking on them until they show something. So it'll be Washington's running back, Brian Robinson. Looks like feature backs against the Cowboys continue to light up the scoreboard. Um, he did. Robinson didn't have as good a week last week, but he still managed to score a touchdown. Um, hit 16 carries, 63 yards, and a touchdown. So continuing to get the workload. And I know on the other hand, Heckler's more in the receiving game. And as a Brian Robinson owner, wish he would get a little bit more involved in the passing game, but can't always have both ways. So as long as he scores rushing touchdowns against the Cowboys, which I think he will, I think he should start him. Who
Nice.
is your next running back to start?
Well, that was my running back to start, but thanks for taking him. Um, but that's all
I
right.
mean, well, like I said, I'm not gonna keep picking on them.
Yeah, no, man, the Cowboys have been a turnstile, so everyone's got to take a turn. I ain't going through on them. So, all right, so my I don't know, man. This I'm kind of hesitant to say this guy's name because who knows how how Payne's gonna be feeling, but I don't know. Nah, I can't do it. I can't do it. All right, so I'm gonna go with he might not produce because there might be returning Isaiah Pacheco might be returning this week, but I'm gonna go with Kareem Hunt uh one more time. And I think that he's gonna have to being that there's gonna be Pacheco's if he does come back and this week, um he's gonna have to work his way back in. I don't think he's gonna have a heavy workload on his first week back. They Kareem has been very solid, during this stretch while Pacheco's out, after they signed him. He's had six double digit fantasy weeks out of the last 7 weeks. And last week it was they play Buffalo, but Buffalo does have a decent defense, and that game got out of they fell behind, so they had to pass more, so they kind of abandoned the run a little bit. But this week they're playing against Carolina Panthers, who are allowing the most fantasy points to running backs this season. So you know I think he should be able to produce another double digit game this week, and like I said, might be the last time we'll be able to use him without an issue because Pacheco is coming back.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting dynamic once Pacheco comes back. Um, I think if anything, he'll still get the majority of the carries, but I think it'll more turn into like a committee
Yeah.
just to kind of keep him fresh. Because I mean, the even though the number one seed is still up for grabs, I still think the Chiefs kind of control their own destiny, so they're probably not gonna work Pacheco too much, especially coming back from injury. So I agree.
Yeah, I think Coach Reed's
Now
already.
moving on.
No, I was gonna say that. I think Coach Reed's already
Go
come out and
ahead.
said that they're gonna be splitting touches. So going forward, whenever he does come back. So there you go.
Yeah, like I said, we'll see how it is because I know fantasy managers going to be that we're hanging on to him. Um, who knows how he'll be. If Andy Reid already said they're just going to be splitting touches, then maybe Pacheco will get more of the goal line work. That's my assumption. So moving on to wide receivers. Um,
What about sits?
the
Running back sits?
wide receiver. Oh, sorry. not moving on to not moving on to
I
wide
know you're excited.
receivers.
I know you're excited to talk about receivers,
I
but
know, man. I am, man. I totally am. So for running back, that I would sit um, this week. Um, I think even though he's been getting the touches, because he's just the go-to running back on his team. But I would sit Ramondre Stevenson this week against the Dolphins. And like I said, even though he's getting the bulk of the carries, he had 20 carries last week, so he doesn't have anyone to take away those carries. I think this week traveling to Miami is going to be tough. And your defense has been doing well as of late. So for that reason, I would sit Ramondre. What about you?
all right. So my first set of the week, um, and if you drafted this running back, kudos to you because he's been probably one of the most one of the biggest surprises this year, and that's Chuba Hubbard. He's been, like I said, very phenomenal for the season. But the thing is, this week he's got two things going against him this week. He's got the Chiefs, who allows the fewest fantasy points to running backs this season, but also this week's going to be confirmed by the coach that the debut of Jonathan Brooks is coming this week. So the coach has already said that he's coming, Coach Canales, and so if he's coming back, that's going to be less work for Hubbard coming into this week, and he has a tough matchup against the Chiefs, so um, don't don't expect many, one of his 20-point outbursts that he's had. He's going to probably come back to earth a little bit this week.
Yeah, I wonder who people that drafted uh, Brooks, they held on to him this whole time, and Hubbard's been doing great, so I don't know how you can stop giving him the ball. But we'll see, especially since the little debut. It'll be interesting to see. Um, my next running back to sit, um, I guess let's call it a shocker. Um, I had a bit of a shocker on the last podcast, but I would actually sit Karen this week against the Eagles. That rookie um, that they have on that team. Um, Forgot what his name is. Eagles, but he's been a really dynamic player. And then um, the rookie they got last year from Georgia he does really well on that defensive line. So they've been on a streak lately. So I think the Kyron Williams owner should kind of temper those expectations going into this week's matchup against the Eagles.
Okay.
Who is your last sit?
My last tip for this week. He's got a tough matchup this week, and that's DeAndre Swift. He's been another running back that a lot of people were a little hesitant to draft. Because he always gets hurt. He doesn't he'll start off great the season and then he'll tail off. But this season, he's been fairly well. He's had a nice little streak since week 4 that he's scored like six weeks with double digit fantasy points, and only 1 week with just single digits. So he's been good, but unfortunately he's been also dealing this week with a growing injury. And couple that he's facing a tough defense with the Vikings that are allowing the second fewest fantasy points to running backs this season, and also Roshan Johnson has been also gradually getting more with the change of offensive coordinators. Uh, Johnson had a very he had a, he was had a lot of carries last week, and maybe that could lean on him a little bit more going forward. So if you have Swift, just monitor that situation that he doesn't that he's actually even gonna even play, because he is dealing with a growing injury, and I don't think he's even practiced this week yet.
Right. Even though that Bears offense has been looking better, um, I do agree that you've got to monitor the situation. So I like that sit against the Vikings.
Guess what, Pablo?
Moving on to Steelers. Um, the receiver that I would start is um, gonna be the same one that I mentioned last week. Um, I know a lot of owners suffered some heartbreak Monday night on his long touchdown that came back. So hopefully this week he's able to make up for that. But it looks like he's back and healthy. So I'm gonna start Nico Collins at home against the Titans. Even though that secondary is um, holding receivers to 117 yards per game, um, I think being healthy again and being at home after a good offensive win Monday night definitely would start Nico this week. How about you?
My first receiver to start this week is going to be I'm gonna pair him with the quarterback I mentioned earlier, which was Justin Herbert. I'm gonna go with his quarterback his top target, Lad McConkey. Like I mentioned earlier, Baltimore is allowing the most fantasy points to receivers this year, and um, McConkey, the rookies had a great connection with Herbert over 3 of the last 4 games. That he's scored in double-digit fantasy points, and you know you gotta keep rolling with the rookie, because he's a chain mover. He was targeted 9 times last week, and brought in 6 receptions for 123 yards. So when he does get the targets, he produces. So if you have him, roll with him.
Yeah, I like McConkey, man. I think he's fitting really well in that team. Prior to the season starting, people were talking about him. I just didn't know how well he would do, but he's doing well. Especially with that offense. I really like that. To pair him up with Herbert. My next receiver to start is going to be Amon St. Brown. He's facing, oh, so kind of like you did. So you paired McConkey with Herbert. Pairing Common Roll with Golf. Um, and the reason why is they are going up against the Colts, whose secondary ranks 26 against the pass. So I know a lot of analysts are talking about this Lions team not only being really well but like I guess like an all-time offense. Um, so they continue to score a lot. Pretty much going to be starting a lot of Lions players, but again, on the Raw start going up against the Colts for the 26th against the Pats. Who's your next one?
So this receiver, I think he's one of your personal favorites, and even though he might have a little tough matchup, I think that his uh, his uh, his his, his teammates gonna probably garner more attention on the defense, but the receiver that if you should start is Jawan Jennings. He's been one of the, like I said, another pleasant surprise that he's been this year. He broke out earlier this year when everybody with all the other receivers were injured, but um, now that Brandon Ayuk is out of the picture, Jennings has been producing very well for fantasy managers over the over the last couple of weeks, and that he had he's had 11 targets over the last 2 weeks, and then one week he brought in 7, and 10 receptions last week, and he has over 90 yards receiving in both games and had a touchdown last week. So he's an intricate part of the offense. The defense. Jair Alexander is their top corner for the Packers has missed practice so far this week, and if he doesn't play, then really look out. So the 49ers offense is loaded with Debo and McCaffrey. That should, and even Kittle should be back this week. So Jennings should have another opportunity to produce for you, at least as a wide receiver 3 at worst.
Well, I agree with that. I think Jennings has kind of taken that IU role. I really hope that Devo is still relative because I would think with McCaffrey being back, it would help him, help them establish that play action, but everything was going to Jennings. So I agree though. Now moving on to wide receivers to sit. Um, the wide receiver that I would sit this week is the guy I was just mentioning, and then I don't have a choice. I'm gonna start him. It's Debo. Debo's not looking like um someone who is going to get um the attention um, in that offense. The last 3 weeks, um, 4 catches, 5 catches, 4 catches, 12 points, 12 points, 6 points. And for a wide receiver one, to me that's not wide receiver one numbers. Um, so he's only had 1 touchdown this year, and that was all the way back in week 6. Um, so yeah, I mean he's again not looking like he's the go-to target in that offense, but I don't have a choice. But if you do have a choice, that's it. What about you, Leo?
Alrighty. Interesting. So yeah, this week, I know I kind of think I feel like I say his name every week, but like if you have him, and it hurts me to say this, but you can't put him in your lineup, and that's Jalen Waddle. He has not waddled all year long. It feels like after scoring a touchdown, he's only scored he's only scored 1 touchdown this year. This is very sad. But yeah, you can't trust him. Even though he's facing the Patriots that are that are allowing the 10th most fantasy points to the receivers this year. To me, Waddle has to prove himself to uh, the most 1 or 2 games just to show some life. Because he's been horrendous this year. So if you want to start him, if you want to get single-digit fantasy points, go for it. But I'm gonna pass on him. He's a sit for me.
Okay. Well, I think eventually he'll turn things around. I can see why you would say him. Um, my next receiver um to sit is going to be Michael Pittman of the Colts. Even though um, Anthony Richardson is back, looks like Josh Downs is the go-to. And I know, you know, fantasy managers are probably thinking that Michael Pittman's kind of like in that same boat of Debo, who's supposed to be the wide receiver one, but is it? Um, so I know some people were expecting him, and I know I was one of them. I think he'd be the clear wide receiver one, especially after last year, but um, this year's not looking like that. So I would sit Pittman this week. What about you?
For some reason he just hasn't been able to connect this year with Richardson. So that's a good pick there. So I'm gonna pick the NFC version of Jalen Waddle this season, and that's gonna be Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen has been uh, he's probably been one of the biggest busts in terms of free agent signings this year. He's only had one game, which came back in week 6, that he's had double-digit fantasy points. But since then, every game has been single digits with 1 week that he scored 9 fantasy points. Other than that, every other week has been under 9 fantasy points. The even though the Bears changed offensive coordinators, in that first game it looked like uh, uh, Roma Dunze and DJ Moore were the focal points in the receiving game, and Keenan Allen was only targeted even though he was targeted 8 times, he only came down with 4 receptions for 41 yards. So uh, to me, he's a sit like Waddle until he proves that he can produce something. He's a sit for me.
Crazy how your Kennedy side goes last year. He was really good. You know, he was the steal the draft last year, considering his ADP, and uh, I knew he wouldn't repeat. I just thought he would be. I just thought he would still be relevant.
Yeah.
But moving on to tight ends. Um, Now this is assuming that Mike Evans doesn't play. But if he doesn't, still think K. Dotton is one of Baker's targets. Before the bye week, he had 5 receptions, 35 yards, which is a lot for tight ends this year. Um, and in Mike Evans' absence, like I said, he's been Baker's go-to target, so kind of just monitor that. Um, but I like Kate Otten and how he's been playing. How about you, Leo? Your first tight end to start.
All right. My first tight end to start this week. He's been one of probably the I want to say he's probably been a Jalen Waddle's replacement in the offense, and that's Jonnu Smith. He's been one of the a very good signing, free agency signing by the Dolphins. He's been our like the probably the best tight end we've had. So I don't know since I can remember. Even though Josiah had a couple years, to me, Jonnu Smith is a total package, and he's been very hot as of late in the tight end position. He last week he came through with 28 fantasy points. He was targeted 8 times, brought in 6 receptions, had over 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, the 2 touchdowns ain't gonna happen every week, but he's been targeted in the 6 of the last 7 games. He's had over 6 targets. So, like I said, to me, it seems like he's been the one that's replaced uh, Waddle as a second receiving option, and he should continue this week. They're playing the Patriots, and they're gonna need him to come through.
Yeah, I picked him up in waivers, hoping that he continues that production. But can't happen every week. Um, but he's been involved in that offense. I like Smith. That's a good. That's a good start. My next tight end to start is going to be Trey McBride of the Cardinals. Um, Something that I was hearing and I was really, really surprised with this stat that I heard. So McBride has been like a top 15 tight end pretty much every week, getting targets, um, yards. You want to know what the one thing that Trey McBride doesn't have this year? Leo, do you know?
That he doesn't have this year. Touchdown.
The, the touchdown. And he's again top 15 tight end pretty much every week, getting yards, getting targets, receptions, but 0 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah,
So
that definitely shows that he's
I
involved
would think
he's involved.
I would think after a bye week, um, he has to have a touchdown at some point, right? So why not? Why not this week? It is my tight end system.
Nice. All right. Well, my second tight end to start. He's a little bit lower in the rankings, uh, but with 6 teams on a bye, I think one of us discussed picking him up this as one of the hot waiver pickups um, for the week, and that's Will Disley. He's as you know I think I'm gonna start out the Chargers this week. It looks like um, he's been coming through over the last couple of weeks with for the uh, for the Chargers and also fantasy managers. He's been targeted in 4 of the last 5 games 6 times, at least 6 targets. And this past week he had six targets, 4 receptions, 80 yards, and he finally came through with a touchdown. The Like I've mentioned the probably over too much is that the Ravens are they do have a suspect secondary, and even though they're not allowing the most fantasy points, they are allowing the tenth most fantasy points to tight ends as well. And he should be able to get you through the bye, at least as a streamer, this week. So if you need him, if you have him, put him in there.
Yeah, man. Everyone's starting in Chargers players and lines. It looks like. So my first tight end to fit is going to be um um it's gonna be Zach Ertz of the Commanders, even though they are a really good matchup. I think um, Terry, Brian, Eckler, the other skill players are going to get majority of the targets. I mean, last week Eckler led the team in receiving. So most Zach Ertz managers probably not too happy about that. Um, and I think that game plan is going to be close, so they're probably just going to end up running the ball. So for that reason, I would sit Ertz. How about you, Leo?
So my first tight end to sit this week is gonna be Tucker Kraft from Green Bay. He's been filled in very well as a starter this year. The thing is that he's facing the 49ers, who are allowing the sixth fewest fantasy points to tight ends this season. And last week Tucker had a rough outing against the Bears last week, that he didn't he was non-existent. I don't even think he had a target, and he had one target, zero receptions. They locked him down, and I think that's gonna happen again this week. So if look for other options if you can, because I think Tucker Kraft should be a sit this week.
All right. Um, Now the tight end that I would sit this week is going to be Dalton Schultz of the Texans. I think when you go back, Mixon doing well, um, Tank Dell, they're starting to use other receivers as well, Woods and Mechie. Um, Even though he does get targets, last week he had, let's see, 5 receptions, but they're also now involving the other tight end, Kate Stover. So again, he's not the go-to tight end in that offense. So for that reason, I would say it's Schultz this week.
All right.
Who's your next tight end? This week, you know?
My next tight end to sit is gonna be Cole Kmet. Um, he's only had two weeks of that he's had 24 fantasy points. The rest have been seven or under. So um, it's tough to trust anyone like that. Um, you know, like tight ends is tough enough. Try to figure out who to start and whatnot. But Cole Kmet has been very. No, I want to say he's been consistently bad, not consistently good. So he's been like I said, he's only had two games that were usable, and the thing is that since he's never showing consistency, doing good games, you don't want when to start him. So to me, you gotta continue to sit him if you have him. This week, he is also playing the Vikings, that are allowing the ninth fewest fantasy points to tight ends this year as well. So to me, that's a double whammy, and he's a sit for me.
Yeah. Um, the Vikings defense, we talked about it. they've been doing really well fantasy wise, and um, Doomsday and more and more involved in the passing game. So I think that's it. Now, last thing is defenses. So the defense that I would start, you should know by now, Leo, it's going to be Commanders defense.
Which defense?
I would definitely start them. I would start them against the Cowboys this week. So enough said with that. What about you, Leo?
Wow, you went on a limb, huh? All right, so I'm gonna go. You know what? You're gonna go with I'm gonna go with my defense. I'm gonna go with the Dolphins this week. They're playing the Patriots at home. The Patriots are allowing the seventh most fantasy points to opposing defenses, and the Dolphins defense has been coming around a little bit lately. Um, maybe they can get you a double digit fantasy points this week. We'll see. Since they're playing a rookie, the rookie's playing on the road, so that's someone as a streamer, the streaming defense, that's someone to think about. Let's start.
My next defense is gonna be more of like a wild card, so don't don't shoot the messenger if they don't do well. But I'm just going based off of it's his first game this year, so I don't know. He might have some nerves, and that's gonna be Bucks defense against Tommy DeVito this week. That is my next defense to start. Your next defense?
All right. So you said your first defense was the Commanders, right?
Right.
I guess that. Okay. All right. So I first picked my team, and I'm gonna pick your team, the Texans. They're playing at home against the Titans. The Titans are allowing the most fantasy points to opposing defenses. Will Levis, he does make plays, but he also does turns the ball over. So the Texans have been hot as they've scored in 3 of the last 4 weeks double-digit fantasy points, and that should continue this week against Tennessee. You're welcome.
Yeah, especially if Will Anderson is back in the lineup. I just don't want to pick them because they would just be nothing but Texans players that I'm starting.
Yeah, I picked up Will Anderson on my dynasty team, so he better play. So he better play this week.
Defense that I would sit. Not a surprise, but it's gonna be Cowboys defense. Don't start them. So let's sit them. What about you, Leo?
The defense that I'm gonna probably sit this week is I guess I've been bashing them so much. I'm just gonna continue on their defense too. I'm gonna bench the Baltimore Ravens defense. You know, if everyone's gonna be making scoring on them, that means they gotta be giving up points, right? So, uh, yeah, Baltimore. If I have them, if you have them, think about picking up someone else to stream. Because they've over the last couple of games that they got torched by the by the Bengals, and then Pittsburgh let them up too. So not let them up, but they allowed um, they didn't do much against them. So um, that might continue for a third week in a row against the Chargers.
All right. Yep. You keep giving up all these points, means you're not getting any fantasy points, which is not good. Now, my last defense to sit is going to be the Raiders defense. Um, like we were talking about, the next has really come alive these last 3 games. But I think should continue against the Raiders for that reason. I would sit them even if they're playing at home. And who's your last?
My last
Your
defense,
last defense?
yeah, my last defense to sit this week is gonna be I guess the Green Bay Packers. They've been you know hit and miss with with their defense, but they're facing the 49ers this week. Um, and they have plenty of weapons, um, so yeah, if you have them, I'll pick up someone else and let them go.
I agree, man. A healthy McCaffrey, everyone back. Mm, Definitely would not start the Packers. So that being said, that concludes our start slash sits for week 12. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Please give us a follow, like the show. We're available on all major platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. If you have questions, you can reach me on X. Is at Arch Reaper, ERCHREAPR. Leo, what are your closing remarks?
Thank you so much for tuning in. Like Pablo said, yeah, if you like the show, give us a follow, tell a friend, uh, like and just share it on social media. We appreciate you. If you have any questions, you can reach me on X at smooth1074. And I wish you guys luck this week. Good luck.
Look, everyone.
Peace.